Good morning to everyone and welcome to the 2020 school year. I'm Jane Stavum, the proud superintendent of the Sioux Falls School District. Last spring, I had barely been hired when I was faced with my first big decision. What should we do about our yearly gathering at the Pentagon? The pandemic had just emerged and we were trying to anticipate what conditions may look like in August. Nothing like deciding the fate of a major event to start things off. I know from experience there are many opinions about starting the year with a large gathering. Some see it as a waste of time, some can take it or leave it, and some absolutely love it. Well, the value of starting the year in a place like the Pentagon is very simple. It's to be together. Together celebrating the work that we do with our students. Together recognizing the collective impact we have in our community. And together enjoying the energy and excitement of a new school year. It's a time to see people we've worked with over the years, to greet new colleagues, and to recognize just how many people serve our community together as an organization whose sole mission is to educate children. Well, this year we aren't gathering at the Pentagon, but we are still gathering in our schools and through this shared experience. This year we're going to be together when we're in the same place and stay together when we may be apart. As educators, it is our chosen duty and ethical responsibility to provide the greatest gift we can ever give, a free and appropriate public education. We are in the profession that truly makes all other professions possible, and we are endowed with the awesome responsibility of teaching and caring for children, all children. I hope you've all gotten your shirts this morning, and I want you to wear it with pride and courage and with purpose. Together we inspire. Together we face the challenge. Together we make a difference. Together we do hard things. Together we achieve more. And together we are one. Have a wonderful day and welcome to the 2020 school year.
Welcome to the 2021 school year from the school board. I am Cynthia Mickelson, president of the board. In contemplating our theme for return to school, I'm reminded of my favorite quote I studied in a high school English class. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. No man is an island means that no one is truly self-sufficient. Everyone must rely on the company and comfort of others in order to thrive. This communion with others is where the Sioux Falls School District shines in providing necessary services to our community. We have done this together. We have succeeded and overcome many obstacles since March 13th, and we are excited to see how our team adapts and innovates to show our students that we are resilient and have the grit to continue in difficult times. So when you are struggling or facing a difficult situation, know that your team has your back. We are here for you and we value you. Something that is helpful when I am feeling down is to reach out to another and help them. History has a funny way of repeating itself and reminding us that we are not infallible, nor that we can continue to survive without adapting to our environment. So I will end with this quote from Charles Darwin. It is a long history of humankind, and animal kind too, that those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. Good luck, and together, let's go do great things. Thank you.
In some ways, March 13th seems like a long time ago, but not in others. We've learned a lot. Thousands of decisions have been made, and in some cases remade, over and over again. Our community isn't the same as it was. Almost nothing is. The schools, the classrooms we return to, in person or virtually, are not the same. Almost everything will be different. From lunches to passing periods, choir rehearsals to football games, art class to recess. We've got flexible options, layers of protection, phases of implementation, recommendations, expectations, guidelines, and goals. No one knows how this will go. The common practice of hoping for the best and preparing for the worst doesn't quite sum it up. Mostly, we're glad to be back, and to have you back, however that may be. We've spent the last few months deep cleaning schools and stocking up on supplies. Our staff and community members have partnered to come up with innovative distancing strategies. We have ventilation protocols in place based on best practices. There will be no shortage of soap or sanitizer in our schools, and anyone who needs a mask will get one. None of this is ideal. Our community needs us, and we need them. The pandemic isn't unique to Sioux Falls, but the Sioux Falls community is unique in its response. Our schools don't stand apart from our neighborhoods, and our neighborhoods aren't isolated from each other. This issue is a community one, and we'll face it as a community. Flexibility will be the key, and no one is alone. We're doing this together. At the core of the Sioux Falls School District are the teachers, coaches, and counselors directly, positively impacting student lives. The substitutes, who when they're needed, step up and step in for students. The child nutrition workers who nourish them. The specialists, EAs, clerical staff, nurses, and administrators caring for them. And the custodial engineers and custodians who are literally saving lives. No single part works without the others. We can't do everything we're tasked to do for the children of this community if we don't do it together. So we are. Together we inspire. Together we face the challenge. Together we make a difference. Together we do hard things. Together we achieve more. Together we are one. We may not have all the answers, but we'll continually keep searching. We may not know what the future holds, but we will bravely face it. We may not get everything right the first time, but we will not stop trying. Things will almost certainly get harder before they get easier, but we will persevere. We are worth it. We may not be able to see every smile under a mask, but we can feel them. Nothing replaces those hugs, but the looks in their eyes speak volumes. We've learned to hold hands from miles apart, how to share ideas and strategies through turmoil and confusion, how to be distant, yet remain close. We'll figure this out together.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jane Stavum, Superintendent of the Sioux Falls School District, and with me this morning is a wonderful group of teachers from our district, and we are having a conversation we would normally have in a circle, but of course, like many things this fall, we are spaced a little bit differently and all facing the same direction because we know that's one of the arrangements that helps us to be physically spaced apart. As we start the school year, I'm kind of sad, kind of happy all at the same time. Normally we would be meeting together at the Pentagon, and this year we are doing some things virtually, just like we will many other things. And so we wanted to have a conversation this morning about kind of how the year ended last year and how that looks as we now head into a year with some different uncertainties attached to it. So I'm going to ask our guests this morning to introduce yourselves and tell us what you teach currently, listen for directions, how many years you've been in the district, and what you are most looking forward to, just a little nugget, what you are most looking forward to as we start the year. So I'm going to start down at this end.
My name is Sarah Hendricks. I teach here at George McGovern in the RISE program, and I think this is year 19 for me.
They add up quickly. Great, welcome.
I'm Jason Hone, 7th grade math at Memorial, and this is my 7th year in the district. I think I'm most looking forward to just having kids back around, not over a screen and just in person.
Great. Forgot what you were most looking forward to.
Miss the directions.
It's all right. It's tough.
I agree, getting to see people face to face.
Yeah.
I'm most looking forward to.
Good, good.
Hello, my name is Naomi Blank. I'm a K-5 ELL teacher at Annie Sullivan. I've been teaching for 5 years in the district, and something I'm looking forward to is just seeing those kids, building those relationships and having fun with them.
Great. Good morning.
I'm Corey Erickson. I am a librarian at Robert Frost. This is my sixth year in the district.
Great.
And what I'm looking forward to is being back around people and the kids so that I can learn how to talk normally again. A little bit of the social awkwardness of being around people with being at home for 5 months.
Yeah, it's that moment of greeting where you're like, should I go in for the, no, I shouldn't, what about, no, and then you kind of do these body contortions as you establish your relationship again. So good luck with that.
My name is Janelle Revere, and I am the Culinary Instructor at the CTE Academy, and this is my 21st year with the district. And I will just echo what they say. I can't wait to have the kids back in my room.
Okay, so make sure you invite me to your classroom a lot, because that's where the really good stuff gets cooked. Well, good. Well, we're so happy to have all of you. And so let's go back just a little ways to March and when things first emerged. As many of you know, I was in a school district where the virus first came out into public and was a very harsh version of that. That started with some deaths nearby, very close to an elementary school, and then it kind of rippled. And I don't know that any district in America has been spared kind of having to deal with things in some way or another. Some closed a little earlier, some closed a little later, but everybody essentially kind of ended up in the same situation. Talk about a little bit how that kind of felt as the closure happened, and then what that was like to try to get to the end of the school year in that remote environment. What did that look and feel like in your own lives? Don't all talk at once. You want to go?
Go for it.
Go ahead.
I would say at first it was a lot of shock. And then I kind of then went to the stage of grieving, like really, I'm not gonna get to see my kids. I'm not going to get to do some of the end of the school year things that I usually do. And a lot of scrambling, making sure all of our IEP paperwork is in order and how to figure out how to get that done was my beginning emotions.
Yeah, yeah, good.
I have to agree. I think shock was the first sign, just the unknown. We didn't know what was really happening, and just I remember families calling me, what is going on, what is happening, and I didn't really understand what was going on, and so just having to just all of a sudden stop our lives and like teaching and have to, okay, readjust and do this online was hard. It was challenging.
We kind of assume that all of our families experience it, you know, the way we do, and I think that was one of the hardest things to think through about what that looked like in different families and that experience depending on some of their circumstances.
It was stressful. Yeah, I thought it was very stressful. One positive of the whole situation was I talked to parents a lot more than I had in a long time, especially at the high school age, because I was on the phone with them. And it was eye-opening. You know, I make assumptions about what other people's homes look like and their kitchens look like, and it was eye-opening to find out it wasn't necessarily true. Their homes didn't look like my home or our kitchen at school, and so it was a lot of adjusting and figuring out what to do next.
You probably had like your own cooking show, but just
Kinda.
weren't quite ready to be Emerald Lagasse or
Right,
somebody.
right.
But what a good realization that when we're asking them to do activities or lessons or things, we're assuming everybody's equipped to do those, and you find out that's maybe not true. Yeah, pretty
I would definitely agree the uncertainty piece too, but also getting into it further, you really started to look at what really does matter. What are we doing that didn't really have to be done or could be done differently, and those pieces I think is what I carry with leaving it. Is it was a really not pleasant time for a lot of us and so much uncertainty and all the change, but when you start looking at what could come out of it, it starts to be kind of a positive of, you know, this can be a lasting change that really helps kids and impacts kids. So that's what I tried to focus on towards the end, especially when it was the depressing of, well, we're not going back. It's not going to be a normal year.
Yeah, I think we all kind of kept hoping, maybe, and then when you found out that final nope, it was really, really disappointing. Yeah.
And I think that was that disappointment at the end of the year, especially for those kids entering their final stages, like the 5th graders that I had since they were 1st graders, and knowing that I wasn't able to send them off.
Yeah. Yeah, no goodbyes, and there's a book by one of my favorite authors, and we recognize all the first day of school, but we don't do a good job of recognizing the last, and your last day of 5th grade and your last day of high school. And for some of our staff, it was their last day of their career. Those were the ones that hit me really hard, is the ones that we didn't get to celebrate out the door and to, give recognition to a career well served. So yeah, no closure the way we would like it. So now you are looking at classrooms. I think there's probably people who haven't been back to that classroom even since March, and now we're looking at walking back in. Tell me what you feel like as you come back in a school and as you kind of look at picking things up. What does that feel like to you?
I would say I'm really excited. I feel like I'm back to normal, having to feel like I have a purpose again. So that was kind of challenging. And so being able to go back to work, having a routine, seeing kids, I have a purpose, and my purpose is to teach. And so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, you get irrelevant really quickly when you're sitting by yourself in your house. Yeah, good.
Ebbs and flows. I would say being excited about trying to be back and working with kids and other colleagues, but then the anxiousness of knowing that people will get sick. Like there's a possibility that, someone could get COVID, and then what do you do? And
yeah, and then the 200 pages that you need to go refer to find out what to do. Trying to make that much simpler, and people will be equipped to help with that. In fact, people are working on that right now. But it's a bigger degree, I think, of uncertainty than what many have experienced, maybe even in their entire lifetime, but certainly in the context of what we do in schools. What else?
Well, I'm lucky. I'm in the kitchen, so we already have pretty strong, sanitation rules in place. But I'm thinking through how I might even change those a little bit more, and making sure that I'm clear to the kids. Because I think what we have to remember is, this year will look different to me in my classroom, but the kids that I see in a couple weeks, it's their first time in my classroom. So whatever I say to them, they'll just always think is the way it has been in that class.
Yeah.
So, that I'm clear with myself on what our procedures and that things are going to be, and communicate with them. I think that will help.
Yep, they look to all of you to know what to do. Yeah.
I've been just thinking how to restructure my classroom, because in RISE we do a lot of hands-on materials, and I used to having a bucket in the center of the table, and we all share supplies and do a lot of sharing of all sorts of things. It's just how to set up my classroom differently this year.
Yeah, and there's a lot you can think through ahead of time, but I know there will be things where you go to do something. I've done that in my own work, as I go to do it, and it's like, oh, no, I can't do it that way, or I can't think about it that way, and that will be, over and over with teachers in classrooms with kids, so those new routines and procedures will be really important.
And I think we'll just have to talk to the kids about that and keep that communication line open.
Yeah.
And, be honest with them that, this is new for all of us, and the why we're doing it this way is for everybody's safety, and just continue to keep that dialogue open with them.
Yeah, good. So when you think about what parents are thinking about, what students are thinking about, what are those things that we want our students to know right as they rejoin us? What are the messages that we want to make sure that we're sending to kids as they walk back into our classrooms with their own level of uncertainty and experience? It's this range for everybody from, I haven't left my home, I'm really, really worried, to I don't really think this is a big deal or even real at all, and now we're going to all join together in these places we call school. What do we think kids need to hear from adults when they come back to be with us?
That we're excited
to
see them.
Excited and grateful that they're back, and hopeful that the decisions we're making are able to keep them back as long as possible, and getting that trust in that relationship, so that they, whether it's a a pleasant modification that we've made or an unpleasant one, but realizing that there's a purpose, and hopefully it's to keep them as safe as possible so that we can keep in person and together as much as possible.
Yeah. I think one of the things I think about with that is day one, we come back, we wear masks, we do all of these protocols. Day 15, are we still doing masks and protocols? And day 45, you know, I mean, I think the long-termness of this, which I also think is one of the hardest things for people to cope with around all of this, is we don't know, when is this over? When is this going to be done? When can we quit doing all of these things? And I think that's going to be one of the challenges as people come back, is doing that over a long period of time as we watch what happens. And if we have to become flexible and go to any of our modified schedules, you know, what does that look like then to go between things if we all come back, or if we, you know, kind of toggle between those things. What are you thinking about most when you were standing? I don't know if you've all been back to your classrooms. I'm assuming you've maybe briefly at least. But what did you think about when you looked at that classroom and thought, okay, what does this really mean? What does this really look like? What was kind of the first thing that hit you?
Well, for me, working in groups, I have a lab class. So I haven't quite solved that, but you know, I'm definitely trying to think of what I'm going to do. The dish area is a huge thing. You know, we usually have 10, 15 people back there in close quarters all doing dishes, and Molly, the other new baking instructor, and I are trying to think through how can we do this so there's like a couple kids and we can rotate this. And I'm guessing we're going to start one way and shift and shift and shift.
Yeah.
So
logistical was really a big part of
Yes.
what you thought about. What else?
I just remember walking into my classroom, and I usually have a couch in there, a fun little reading corner, and I can't have those things in the classroom, and so that was really sad, the realization that, okay, we have to be 6 feet apart at least, and having to organize it in a way that it's safe for our students. You know, as an ELL teacher, I do work a lot with small groups, and I work K through 5, students with K through 5, and so like the logistic parts, having to figure out, okay, how could I have materials? I mean, they can't share materials, so how do I have enough materials for all students to have in that small classroom? Yeah, it's different.
And when kids are learning a language, those facial cues and being able to see and hear, I'm worried about kids being able to hear. You know, when you have a mask, how many times have you said, what? You know, when you can't hear somebody. And then it's, you know, gonna have to be, we take it down quickly to speak, but that's gonna be a reality that I've thought about, just hearing, and all kids being able to hear in our classrooms, whether you're in the front or you're in the back.
For us hearing them.
Yes, yes.
I have a hard time hearing people too. I didn't realize how much I use the facial cues.
Yeah.
So I would like to say I feel like I learn best when I could see a person, read their expressions, and I mean, kids need that, and so not being able to have that or see that, it's going to be an adjustment and finding ways to make sure that they can hear and see and understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, good. What else? First moments.
I think it was trying to figure out how am I going to try keep everyone safe. Being in my space, it's just round tables, and what kind of dividers do I need to set up? What do I need? Some of the logistical things, such as how do I make sure that they'll be able to see me through the dividers really well and be able to hear, and that piece too is trying to problem solve all that.
Yeah, and books. We touch books.
All the
Talk
time.
a little bit about just the management aspect in our libraries. What does that look like with books?
With books, it's relatively simple, and it could be really complicated. The short of it is that we're going to try to promote the use of our online catalog for searching rather than just going and touching everything. And then when books come back, we try to set them aside for a few days to let them disinfect naturally.
Yeah, right. So that involves all kinds of different procedures. But I remember a day we were talking about library books, and we talked about it for 40 minutes. It was like, this is just library books. We got lots of other things, but that just shows the level of detail that everybody's having to think about. Any other thoughts from first moments?
I would say it felt good to be back to normal. I guess I didn't notice all of the other things. It just felt good to get back into the room,
Yeah.
get back into my routine, and hopeful that things will be more normal this year.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
that makes any sense to me.
Yeah. Abnormally normal. Yeah. I think teachers love creating their spaces. I know that was, my most favorite thing was I now had this space that I could do with it and craft it to be an experience for kids. And I know when we talked about, how we're going to space, all of a sudden we realized, well, that's going to mean some things have to leave. And those favorite things or the things that draw kids together the way that we want them to be. And so, it meant hauling furniture out for many people or cleaning things out from long years of use. So we've got just a few minutes left. What do you think is most important when we think about teaching and learning and the urgency factor that we all need to be really thinking about with what kids may have lost? What's job one when kids come back in our classroom?
I would say getting relationships built back up.
Mm-hmm.
They've been potentially some of these kids not out of their house, like you mentioned before. Some haven't left home, some have. So just reminding them of why they're there. And I know as much as we all want to get as far as we can while they're with us, it's still so paramount to get them to realize that we're there for them, and it's that relationship, and realizing that that's almost more important in this situation than anything else.
Comfort and safety. Yeah. What else?
Not forgetting to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, good.
I think, it's a lot of stress on us to go back and to have to be thinking of all the stuff we're going to have to do differently.
Yeah.
And to make sure we're mindful of our mental health.
Yeah, and not worried about doing it wrong. We're all going to do the very best that we can, and we have lots of people to help with that. Yeah, what else?
Just like you said, the reassurance that we are all in this together, just building those relationships back up, telling the students that we care, we are here, we've been this through together, and just also reassuring parents, we're in this together, we're going to work together to make this the best year.
Yeah, good. Well, it's a year like we've never had before. And we're going to do our very best. We're going to go one day at a time, might be one half a day at a time, and do our very best for our students. Their kids need us. Even the few that came back and joined us for summer programs, we're so happy to be in this safe place that they love with the people that care about them the most, which is our teachers and staff. So we hope everybody has a great start to the school year. We will do our very best to follow all of these things that we know are designed to do our best to keep this virus away. We're also trying to all figure out how to live with it as we start this new school year. And so reach out to your colleagues, figuratively, not really, but be together, support each other, support and love our kids, and we appreciate you all and hope that you have a wonderful start to your school year. Now that we've talked about our theme for the year, we're asking all staff at all buildings to show us what together means to your team. By noon today, each building should send a picture to Ben Schumacher at the email provided that showcases how the staff is in this together. Wear your t-shirts, make a bulletin board or a banner, send us a picture of your staff doing something together. Remember that masks and social distancing matter. One picture to showcase your togetherness. By the end of the day, we'll put each picture from each building together in a video so you can see what your colleagues across town are up to. If you have any level of competitiveness, now is the time to use it. Photos will be judged, and the building that most clearly and cleverly showcases their togetherness wins fabulous prizes. Okay, fabulous prizes might be an overstatement, but we'll have something special to reward your work. Since today's session is a little shorter than normal, use the extra time to communicate and collaborate together. We can't wait to see what you come up with. Have fun and be creative together.